Hi guys, welcome to Piece of Code and welcome to this video. And in this video we're going to continue our OCA crash course series, and we're going to cover these topics today, which is encapsulation or encapsulating data, creating immutable classes, and some tricky questions and examples, right? So let's get on to it, guys. I'm going to open up my Eclipse, and first of all let us see what is encapsulation, right? So basically encapsulation literally means binding of data, right? If you're going to create a definition out of it, it is binding of data, right? And obviously going to bind your data in what? In a class. And in a class with respect to data, what is there? In class with respect to data, there are variables, right? It can be a static variables or your instance variables, whatever. So you have to bind that data into a what? You have to bind variables with methods, right? It's a two-way binding or something like that. Your variables will be binded with your methods, and there is a specific reason to do that, and there is a specific advantage to do that, and we're going to discuss that in a minute. So this is the classic definition of particular encapsulation, just binding of data in a class which is variables with methods, right? Now let us see what is the requirement of encapsulation in this particular thing. So I'm gonna create a new class, sorry, not a new class, let's create a new package, and in the package I'm gonna name it as encapsulation, right? So let's create a small class over here. I'm going to name this class as student, let's say, sorry, and I'm going to click on finish. Now the default behavior of a variable when you create it, for example, int marks, int marks, if I create a variable int marks, now it's fine, right? And accordingly if you see when you do not provide any access specifier, it just defaults to the default access specifier, which means that any class in a particular package will be able to change this marks variable, right? Now the problem with that is it's comes in when people try to do stupid stuff with it. For example, I'm going to create a tester class, and I need this public static void main, right? So if I create an object of student, I do student equals to new student. That's cool, right? I hope these things are pretty much clear to you, because we have discussed all of these things in detail. Now what we can do is, now for example, the marks of a student cannot be negative, right? But in this case, as I have complete access to this particular marks variable, and basically it's in the same package, so obviously I have access to it, right? If I create the object of student, then I obviously have access to the marks using the object of student, right? So I can do this student dot marks, I would say marks equals to -50. Now this is a completely valid assignment over here, but it will hamper your functionality, because obviously the marks of a student cannot be a negative number. I hope that is making sense. So how can we prevent this? Now one thing will come into your mind, you will say, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this marks as private. So what will happen, that I do not have access to this marks variable like this. I cannot modify it like this, right? That is cool, but how will you modify it though? I mean, obviously there will be certain cases when you need to modify the marks or set the marks of a student, right? How will you do that? So the first step of encapsulation is to make the variables as private in a class. The second step of encapsulation is to create the binding methods, and generally those are known as getters and setter methods. So basically the naming convention goes like this. We have, for a getter method, we name it as get, then the variable name in camel case, and then we have setter method, we take the set and then the variable name in camel case. And obviously as the name suggests, the set variable is used to set the variable, so it will accept a value for the variable to be set, and obviously the get variable will return something, so it will have a data type, return data type, because it will return the particular set variable. So the advantage of this is that we can modify this marks variable in this case by using these this set variable name method or set marks method, right? And to get the marks, we will use this getter method, right? So we can add additional logic in this methods, because these are methods, right? You can write whatever you want in the method. So we can add, for example, additional logic to prevent someone from assigning a negative value to the marks variable or something like that. We can do that. Another thing you have to keep in mind, if you are using a boolean variable, then the naming convention changes. So for setter method, for boolean variable, it is set boolean variable name, and for getter method it is boolean variable name. So if the boolean variable name is, I don't know, test, right, then the setter variable, the setter method will be set test, and then the getter method will be is a test. So these naming convention you need to keep in mind, because in the exam they may give you a particular question where they will tell you to find out which are valid getter and setter methods or not. So you need to keep those in mind, and you need to figure out if you are good with it or not, because if you select a wrong answer, then obviously you lose the marks over there. Alright, so these are all the naming convention, guys. So let us create the getter and setter methods for the marks variable. Let's start easy. Let's create the getter method first. So for obviously the getter method will return a value which will be this marks, right? So it will have a data type. So it will be like the data type is int, right? I'm going to say int get marks, and we just gonna return this dot marks. You can use this keyword or not, it's up to you. I like using it because I want to refer to the marks variable like this, I mean the instance variable like this, so I like to use it. It's up to you if you want to use it or not, but it's a good habit to use this keyword every time, because if there is a conflict, you have already resolved it if you have the habit of using this keyword. Okay, then we have the set marks. So it's pretty simple, void set marks, and then we're gonna pass in the marks, int marks, and then we're gonna just say this dot. Now before setting it, we can check that if the value of marks is greater than 0 or not, and less than 100 or not. So we're gonna say if marks is greater than or equals to 0 and marks less than or equals to 100, then set the marks like this dot marks equals to marks, or otherwise we're gonna say sysout, like sorry, or else we're gonna just say a sysout statement, please enter a valid mark. I hope that is making sense, guys. So if I go back over here, or not over here, if I go back to my tester method, and if I try to do now student dot set marks, and I'm gonna pass in a -50 over here. Okay, now if I run the particular this method, sorry, this class not method, run as Java application. So it say please enter a valid mark. So if I enter something greater than 50, then it will be set, and to get the particular marks, I'm gonna say sysout student dot get marks. Okay, I hope that is cool. Let's run the code. Okay, now you can see that it is being set. Another thing you need to keep in mind that, guys, these methods, the access specifier of these getters and setter methods will be public, right? Now it's up to you if you don't want to give it access, that much access, like to make it public or not. You can keep it as default or protected, or however access you want to give, you can give it. But generally the naming convention and the standard says that the getters and setter methods, or the helper methods that we say, should be public, and the instance variables must be private. Alright guys, so that's about encapsulation. I hope you can figure out in the exam if there is a question which is using proper encapsulation or not, because a lot of question, actually encapsulation itself isn't a, I would say, a bigger topic from which questions come. Encapsulation is used in a lot of other topics, and it is used in a way such that you will get confused. So mix encapsulation with other topics that we have covered in this series, and you will get an idea how to use encapsulation in those questions. Alright guys, so let's move on to the next topic, which is creating immutable classes. So let's talk about immutability guys. So immutability, as we have already experienced immutability while dealing with strings and string builders. So yeah, string builder is mutable, string is immutable. So what does it does is basically, for example, when we create a string s equals to, for example, Akash, that's it. You cannot modify this string variable. Even if you perform some operations, you have to assign it to a new, it will return a new string altogether, right, every time. So how can you create an immutable, I would say, variable or something like that, right? Let's try it out. And in this case you can see that this marks is kind of mutable, because you see we are setting the marks over here, so we can use the same you can say marks, and we can modify it. But let's say you want to create an immutable version of this thing. It's pretty easy to do that guys. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another class over here, and I'm gonna name this class as immutable student. Alright, and let's click on finish. So what I'm gonna do over here is I'm gonna say this thing, private int marks, same encapsulation we're gonna apply. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a constructor of this immutable student. So immutable student, and over here what I'm going to do is I'm gonna take in a value of marks, int marks, and I'm gonna say this dot marks equals to marks. Now the advantage of this thing is that I'm not gonna keep a setter method anymore. So I'm gonna keep a, if the person wants to set the marks value, then he or she needs to do that while creating the object, right? But they cannot modify after they have created the object. That's what I mean. That's what an immutable object means, right? So I'm just gonna keep a getter method over here. So I'm just gonna say public int get marks, right? I hope that is clear. I'm just gonna say return this dot marks. Alright, cool. You can use it as you want. You can, while creating the object of the immutable student, you can have to pass the marks. So if I go to this tester and immutable student equals to new immutable student, I have to pass in the marks in 100, and then the only thing that I can do is immutable student dot get. That's it. And if I try to run the code, then you can see 100 will get it. Now this is all sun rays and sunshine and whatever you're going to call it, but there is a problem over here, and many people face this problem while dealing with actual instances or objects, you would say, right? Let's try out one of those trickier examples. So I'm just gonna create another class over here, and I'm gonna name this class as not immutable, because obviously what we are going to make right now is actually not immutable, but it will seem as mutable. So there's a difference. So I'm gonna create this class, and over here I'm gonna create a reference of string builder. So string builder, okay, Great. Now what I'm going to do is same thing that we learned while creating an immutable class. I'm going to create a constructor, so not immutable, and inside this constructor I'm going to just say string builder b, and then builder equals to b. So we'll accept an object of the string builder, and then we're going to assign it to this one. Sorry, I forgot that this builder equals to. Okay, correct. Now what I'm going to do, just create a getter method, and I'm going to say public string builder get builder. Right, cool. We're going to say return this dot builder. Cool. So this is how we generally create an immutable class, and as you can see, you would suggest that yeah, this is an immutable class. What is the problem in here? Now let's see what is the problem. See, let's try this out. Let me go to this tester class, and I'm gonna say for example string builder. I'm going to create an instance of the string builder, sb equals to new string builder, and I'm going to use initial as the particular value of the string builder while creating it. Then I'm going to create an object of the not immutable class, not immutable problem, or whatever you want to call, you can call it to new not immutable, and we're going to say sb over here, and then you're going to say sb dot append. I'm going to say I don't know, Naruto. Now let's see this. Let's see, it's pretty interesting, right? Pretty interesting. I'm going to say sysout problem dot get builder. All right, let's run this code and let's see what is the problem over here. Okay, this is not expected, right? This is not at all expected. I mean, we are changing the same instance of the string builder. We are changing the same instance of the string builder. Now if I do this thing, problem, so that is the initial, right? I don't know, sb dot append something more. Let's try it out over here. I'm going to say sb dot append Luffy. I watch a lot of anime, so yeah, got hanged up a little bit. Okay, so let us get this out over here and do the same thing, problem dot get builder. Now if I see over here, you should see Luffy now. So that this is not an immutable situation, right? Because we are creating a string builder, we are passing it into this immutable class. It's supposed to create a immutable object, but when we try to append this we are actually modifying the same string builder object. So what is happening over here? Let me just explain. So this not immutable class, right? Inside the not immutable class, there is a builder reference, which is a string builder reference, right? Then what we did over here, if you have a look at it, this sb, we created a new string builder object. So sb is pointing to, in the heap, it is pointing to initial, right? I hope that is clear. Now what we did is, if you see this particular situation over here, we are just assigning that particular, not this one, we are just assigning that particular sb to this builder reference. So what is happening? So if I go back, so this builder also points to the same reference, right? Now the immutability situation is not there. You see both the references are pointing to the same object. So when I added Naruto, so both of them got the same changes when I appended to it, and when I appended Luffy, then also the changes got exactly the changes got reflected in builder because they are pointing to the same particular object. So that's a problem over here. So how do we get rid of this problem, or how do we do this thing? So the simplest thing that we can do to make this immutable as mutable is not mutable as immutable, not immutable as immutable. Sorry, a lot of tongue twisters over here. So what we can do over here is, instead of doing this, we can do this thing. So this dot builder equals to new string builder. First of all, I'm gonna create a new instance altogether and pass in this string builder. All right, that is making sense. Then instead of returning this builder, this dot builder, we're gonna replace this, and we're gonna return a new string builder object with builder. We're gonna pass that. So over here, if you see, every time when we assign to the builder a new builder object is getting created, string builder object is getting created, and when we are also getting the builder object, we are getting a new string builder object. So you don't have to worry about modifying the same object anymore, because every time we do this, we are getting a new object of the string builder. Now if I go back to this tester class and I run this class, now you see that it stays initial instead of appending to that particular builder. So this is how it becomes trickier, guys, and in the exam they will try to trick you a lot using this concept, and this is you have to follow the same thing for all kind of object references, because object references may be trickier, right? So you have to be very, very careful while dealing with immutability regarding object references. I hope this made things clear to you guys. So let's meet in our next video. Till then, have a nice day. Bye bye and take care.